Life is a big school. We all have to learn.
Welcome to our channel, where we bring you fascinating stories from around the world. Today, we delve into the captivating tale of The Story of the Three Apples, as found in the renowned collection, Arabian Nights. This mesmerizing story is an excellent example of an unreliable narrator, captivating readers with its intrigue and suspense. The story begins one night when the powerful Khalifa Harun al-Rashid and his trusted Wazir Jafar embark on a quest for justice. They venture into the city, determined to investigate those in authority and address any grievances from the people. During their journey, they encounter an old man, burdened with the struggles of poverty, reciting poignant verses that speak of his hardship. The Khalifa is moved by the man's plight and decides to offer him a chance for prosperity. He proposes a deal to the fisherman, inviting him to join them at the riverbank and cast his net in exchange for a handsome reward. Excitement fills the air as the fisherman eagerly accepts the Khalifa's proposition. With anticipation building, the fisherman casts his net into the river, hoping for a bountiful catch. As the net is pulled back, it reveals a heavy, locked chest, igniting curiosity and intrigue. The Khalifa rewards the fisherman with 100 pieces of gold, and accompanied by Jafar and Mesroor, they bring the mysterious chest to the palace. Inside the chest, they discover a basket sewn with red worsted, concealing a series of intriguing objects. As the threads are cut, a beautiful carpet is unveiled, holding secrets beneath its folds. They lift the carpet, only to uncover a tragic sight: a young woman slain and dismembered. The shocking discovery sends shockwaves through the palace and sets the stage for a gripping investigation. As the shocking discovery unfolds, the Khalifa is consumed by anger and vows to seek justice for the slain damsel. He demands that Jafar find the murderer within 3 days or face dire consequences. Jafar, burdened with the task of finding the killer, embarks on a desperate search throughout the city. Haunted by the weight of the damsel's death, he grapples with the challenge of bringing the true culprit before the Khalifa. Days pass, and Jafar remains troubled, unsure of how to fulfill the Khalifa's demand. He contemplates his options, knowing that presenting an innocent person would burden his conscience. When the 3-day deadline approaches, the Khalifa summons Jafar and demands an answer. Jafar, unable to provide an answer, faces the wrath of the Khalifa, who orders his crucifixion along with his kinsmen. Word spreads throughout Baghdad, and people gather to witness the impending crucifixion of Jafar and his relatives. Unaware of the true cause, the onlookers are filled with sorrow and confusion. However, in the midst of despair, a young man steps forward, dressed neatly and full of determination. He reveals himself as the true killer, offering to take the blame and face the consequences. As the young man speaks, an elderly sheikh rushes forward, disputing the claim and insisting that he is the actual murderer. To the astonishment of those present, the old man, with tears in his eyes, proclaims, "No, O noble ones, it is not this young man who committed the heinous act. I am the true murderer." In this heart-wrenching moment of sacrifice and compassion, Jafar realizes the truth and is both relieved and saddened. He discovers that the elderly sheikh is none other than the grief-stricken father of the murdered woman. The father could not bear the thought of an innocent young man losing his life for a crime he did not commit, so he stepped forward to bear the burden of guilt himself. With the revelation of the true murderer, the fate of Jafar and his kinsmen takes an unexpected turn. The young man, now revealed as the true murderer, steps forward and confesses to the crime. He reveals that the damsel was his wife and the daughter of his uncle, and he embarked on a desperate search for the apple she longed for. Driven by love and devotion, the young man traveled for 15 days to acquire the coveted apple from the Khalifa's garden in El Basra. However, upon his return, his wife, suffering from a fever, no longer desired the apples. The young man, devastated by his wife's indifference and fueled by rage, learned a shocking truth from a passing slave named Rayhan. Rayhan deceitfully confessed to seducing the young man's wife, falsely claiming to have taken one of the apples from El Basra. Enraged, he took a knife and killed his wife, mutilating her body and disposing of it in the Tigris River. The young man's confession shocks the Khalifa and those present, who now understand the motive behind the crime. The Khalifa questions the young man about his actions and the extraordinary circumstances surrounding his confession. The young man, swearing by Allah and recounting his tragic tale, explains the depth of his love, his wife's illness, and his ultimate act of vengeance. His grief and uncontrollable rage drove him to commit the unforgivable deed. As the young man's story unfolds, the consequences of his actions and the Khalifa's judgment become paramount. The young man, overwhelmed with guilt and fearing divine retribution, pleads for his own death to atone for his wife's murder. But the Khalifa, moved by the young man's tragic tale and the circumstances surrounding the crime, decides to spare his life. The Khalifa demands the capture of the wicked slave who had caused the tragic events. Jafar, the wazir, knowing he cannot find the slave, retreats to his home, hoping for a divine intervention. Jafar, resigned to his fate, prepares for his impending death and bids farewell to his family. But just as all seems lost, a twist of fate occurs. Jafar's youngest daughter reveals an apple in her pocket, given to her by the slave Rayhan. Jafar realizes the connection between the apple and the slave and commands that the slave be brought before him. The slave, now confronted, confesses to stealing the apple from a child in the street. He reveals the story of the apple and how he sold it to Jafar's daughter. Jafar, astounded by the slave's confession, takes him to the Khalifa to reveal the truth. The Khalifa orders the story to be recorded and published, bringing the truth to light.